Welcome to the Carnivore Cast, a podcast focused on the carnivore diet and lifestyle, with practical advice from successful carnivores, citizen scientists, and top researchers. I'm your host, Scott Meslinski, and I'm here to speak with experts and experienced carnivores to get answers to your biggest and meatiest questions while helping you live your best life as a carnivore. If you enjoy the show, please consider supporting the Carnivore Cast on Patreon. By becoming a patron, you'll help us reach more people and continue to create content on Carnivore. There are also exclusive perks available, such as private Q&As, consultations with me, and more. Become a supporter at patreon.com/carnivorecast. Check the episode description for the link. Thank you, and I'll see you there. Amber Wentworth at Lone Star Keto Girl has lost over 100 pounds on a keto and now carnivore diet so that she can play with her granddaughter after struggling for years with restrictive diets and calorie counting. Her Instagram handle reads, "Sharing my experience and knowledge so others don't have to suffer," and she's doing just that through her fantastic, insightful, and prolific Instagram posts, including amazing keto and carnivore recipes, carnivore tips, science, interviews, and more. Amber is now a certified MeatRx coach and helps host the MeatRx podcast/show. She also hosts the Ketovore Cast on YouTube with Brett Lloyd. Welcome to the show, Amber.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, very excited to have you on. And I followed you for a long time and been looking forward to speaking with you.
Thank you.
So let's start at the top or where you like to start on the MeatRx podcast, which I so appreciate, which is, how did you get sick in the first place? What was your health like before finding keto diet or a carnivore diet?
Oh, yeah. I had some pretty serious issues going on there. Like I've mentioned many times before, I have struggled with weight since I was about 10 years old and doing every diet out there, all that kind of thing. And when I've lost actually 4 different times 80 to 100 pounds.
Wow.
So yeah, I've tried just about everything, right? Well, by the time I got to my early 40s, I started having some really, really severe issues. And I hit my low point when I had trouble changing the kitty litter because it would leave me exhausted. And I knew I had an issue. I knew I had high blood pressure, but I didn't want to deal with it because I didn't like going to the doctors. And I didn't want to be told, you're fat, you need to lose weight. That's what your problem is. I already knew that was what my problem was. I didn't want to deal with it and I didn't want to admit it. So I, struggled to do simple daily tasks. And I had 2 young children. And so it became very, very difficult for that. Well, they weren't young, but, enough to where they still needed mom around or whatever and to do things. And so I hid these health things from my family, especially my husband, because I know he would have told me, you get your butt to the doctor, period. I don't want to hear about it. So I really hid it from him. And that was so difficult. So I eventually had to go to the doctor for an unrelated issue. And when I got to the doctors and they do the typical blood pressure check, right? And all of a sudden the nurse's eyes got really big and she said, "I need you to lay down, honey, and just kind of relax and I'll be right back." And I was like, what the heck? Oh, great. Here we go. And next thing you know, the doctor's coming in, another nurse, they're wheeling in the EKG machine. They're hooking me up and they're saying that if I did not get my blood pressure down immediately, by the medication they were giving me, that they were going to admit me to the hospital because I was at the stroke level of high blood pressure at that point. And of course, after that, I had to go see a cardiologist, do all those things. And I ended up being put on 4 different medications. One of them had the diuretic in it. And then that kind of was like a house of cards. One thing after another started happening. And I was having to go to different doctor's appointments for all of this mess going on and find out I'm pre-diabetic. And that scared the crap out of me because my family has a history of that. And I've seen what that is like. And it was horrifying. My grandmother died at the age of 54, which I turned 54 in July. So, that was, of course, I was in my 40s at the time, but still, it's a scary thing. So that really kind of shook me up. And then I had severe acid reflux, like severe, to the point where if I reclined in any way, acid would like come up into my throat, pure acid. I mean, I'm talking a mouthful
Jeez.
of acid. It was awful and miserable. So I was put on Nexium. I took it every day for 8 years. And I was told by my doctor, who I grew to really trust and like, and he's a great guy. He's retired now, but he told me, yeah, you're going to pretty much have to be on this the rest of your life because your insides look like hamburger meat.
Oh,
Because, and yeah, part of all of this mess, I had to go have an endoscopy done where they, and I was rotor-rooted, down and up and to check out what was going on with me because I was losing blood somewhere and they were trying to figure out where because I was severely anemic too. It was one thing after another. It just kind of took that to slap me back into reality. And I did, admit, I remember just breaking down in the doctor's office and saying, I know it's because I'm fat. I know I'm unhealthy because I'm fat. And, I was just hysterical, and he was so cool. And he never once said that. He just calmed me down, and he was like, well, let's work on blah, 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 whatever. He was a very cool guy, and he never said those words that for whatever reason I was so fearful of. You're fat. Well, duh, I knew I was fat, but I didn't want somebody telling me I was fat. And the reason why I had these health issues was because I was fat or whatever. So that was just like this weird thing in my mind. But yeah, that really slapped me into reality for sure.
yeah, that's absolutely crazy. And what were some of the things you tried in the past? What was your diet like?
Oh gosh. Okay. Like I said, starting at 10 years old, I did my first diet around the age of 10. And I would watch my mom because of our family history, she was very concerned about her weight. So she always ate literally like a rabbit, salads all the time. And so I watched that and I thought that that's what you were supposed to do. So I would kind of like emulate that so I could hopefully not be as fat as and be skinny like those other kids in school and stop being made fun of. Even though when I look back, I just had a little pudgy cheeks. I look like a little chipmunk, but my body wasn't really fat. I was just developing a little earlier than some of the other kids, which was just like the bane of my existence or whatever. It's awful, but whatever. So I would do stuff like that. And then as I got a little bit older and, preteens, teens, I would do goofy stuff like you eat 9 bananas one day, 9 eggs the next, those kind of crazy diets. And then I tried Slim Fast. I tried Weight Watchers. I did Weight Watchers so many times I can't even tell you. And 3 of the 4 times that I lost 80 to 100 pounds were on Weight Watchers.
Wow.
Yeah. And I did it many other times where I would lose 20, 30, 40, 50, 60 pounds. 60 pounds was like nothing for me. I could drop 60 pounds. That's not a problem. So, I would do this. And I did medical supervised diet, and I was 15 when I did that. I had to get parental permission. I was 15 doing a medical diet. Yeah. And again, I mean, I was 15 and I weighed probably 110 pounds. Now I'm only 5'2", so I am small, or short. And, that was in my head overweight because I got made fun of because I had a large chest. And so apparently that translated into, being fat. I don't know, but, I would get looked at a little bit different and little comments would be said from certain people. Okay. So I did the medical supervised one. And that didn't work so well. I've done Jenny Craig. I've done anything that you can get in the store. I've done Herbalife. Oh God, there's just so many. Every fad diet they ever had, I did it. I've done back in the 80s when I was doing this, you could still buy the heavy duty diet pills, right? I mean, talking heavy duty that they're completely banned right now. I was taking those along with laxatives. And by the time, at 15, I was a full blown bulimic and anorexic at that point. So I was dealing with that. And so I was taking these, drugs that are not even allowed today, as well as laxatives and, doing the binging and the purging and all this. So if you want to consider that kind of a diet lifestyle in a sick way, literally I've done everything. I've done where I wouldn't eat for weeks at a time. And then my body would just like shake so bad, I would eat a tablespoon of peanut butter, then I would go another week or so without eating. So, and I know there's a lot, the whole fasting thing, but it was a little bit different what I was doing.
Yeah.
And I was like, I also had the anorexia athletica. So I constantly exercise, like all through this, I did some crazy exercising kind of stuff. And it got really, really bad in my 40s when I like started to do something about the whole weight thing. I got a little bit crazy into the exercising. So if you want to consider that part of the diet part, but yeah, pretty much I've done everything. I really have. There's not much.
It's crazy. And it sounds like you were doing all the quote unquote right things, and it worked temporarily, but losing weight is one thing, and keeping it off and maintaining a lifestyle, sustainable lifestyle, is something totally different.
Absolutely.
Today's episode is brought to you by Optimal Carnivore, created by carnivores for carnivores, and their new product, grass-fed bone marrow. It's the whole bone extract, which includes bone marrow, cartilage, and collagen peptides. Our ancestors would have eaten the whole animal, including the bones, and especially the marrow. All the nutrients and substances that your body uses to repair and maintain your bones, teeth, and connective tissues. The bone marrow context contains the same components as a home-cooked bone broth, but way easier without the hassle of sourcing high-quality bones, boiling them for days. And this product is gently freeze-dried, so all the prized nutrients are left completely intact. It's perfect for people who are traveling or don't have time to make bone broth. Visit www.optimalcarnivore.com/carnivorecast and use the code carnivore10 to receive 10% off your purchase. Now back to the show. You talked a little about what doctors were telling you. How about more parts of your support group, your friends, your family? What did they think about, your health at the time and what you were doing to lose weight?
Oh, goodness. Honestly, I like with my husband, he's been with me since I was 15. Matter of fact, tomorrow is our 34th anniversary.
Wow.
But I was 15
Congratulations.
when we got together. Thank you. And he was the one that paid for my medical diet. So, and again, I can't stress enough, I wish you could see a picture of me when I was 15. I was not fat, and especially not by today's standards. So to have that thought process, but he supported me. And no matter what I did, he supported me. And it wasn't that he thought that I had to lose weight or I needed to lose weight. He was worried when I started getting into the health issues. And that's, again, why I hid it from him, because I knew he was going to force me to do something about it because he was very concerned about my health. But he's very, very supportive that way. My kids also were pretty supportive when I would do all these different diet things, but they would kind of like at the same time go, oh God, here mom goes again doing this crazy, and oh boy, she can't have that because there's no way she's going to eat that, or oh, here mom's nutso again. So it was almost kind of a joke because I had, up and down. I'd lose 50 pounds. I'd gain 60. I'd lose 80. I'd gain 50, back and forth. Oh, something new she's going to try, So I got some of that teasing, but they still supported me. And with friends, it was a little bit different. I had some friends that were very supportive and other ones who would just be like, oh God, why can't you eat that? Like just have a little bit of it. It's not going to hurt you. But I was one of those crazy people who, once I started something, I go 150% or nothing at all. I'm an all or nothing. I give it all or I do nothing. And so that's just my mentality. That's my OCD, whatever you want to call it. I don't know. My husband always makes fun of me. So my kids, because it's like I go full force and that's it. Get out of my way. It's going to happen. And I meet every single goal. And like you mentioned, the losing the weight, never, ever, ever an issue for me, ever. I could lose the weight I don't want to say easy because it was still miserable, but because I had such crazy willpower, which you have to depend on these, crap diets, you have no choice but willpower. But luckily I had a whole bunch of that. But eventually, you get to the point where you're like, I'm so over this. And I would reach my maintenance and I would start getting nervous because I knew as soon as I hit maintenance, that's when my work was going to start. That was when I was going to have issues. That's the part I could never, ever figure out. That never worked for me because there is no way I could continue the rest of my life eating that miserable, miserable crap food that I hated, but I did. I could not do that forever. I just couldn't. And as soon as I would stop, guess what? And I'm not even talking going back to eating chips and candy. I'm just talking eating like a normal person would.
Yeah.
And poof, there goes the weight. If I changed anything, if I up my food just a little bit or decrease my exercise, either one of those, bam, weight would start coming on with a vengeance. And every single time, every time. And, it's just not sustainable, not for me.
Yeah, it's crazy how people say, I'm going to get to this weight and then I can eat whatever I want, or I'm going to get to this weight and then I can lift all these restrictions. It really has to be something you adopt for a lifetime. I think you're a great example of that. And when did you first discover keto, Amber? When was that and kind of what happened?
Okay, this was very interesting. At the time, I had never even heard of keto, okay? And I was at the point where I was done. I was absolutely done. I was giving up. Apparently, I was meant to be fat and unhealthy and possibly die early. That was my lot in life. It was time I accepted it. And that was kind of my mentality at the time. Well, my daughter had a friend who was selling the exogenous ketones. And my daughter said, I think I'm going to just try this. She just had, like 5 pounds to lose. She's never really needed that, but she just felt like she wanted to get back to her gym body. She was a gymnast. So, and I was like, you know what? I'm going to do it with you. I'll do this sample pack and I'll just, this is my last chance. This is it for me. Done. I'm over it. Last thing. Oh my God. So in 2 days, I looked at my husband and I said, oh my God, I feel amazing. I feel like, I have this energy. I don't care about food. I don't even want to eat. I don't care about food. And that has always been, like I'd wake up in the morning, food. I go to bed thinking about food. Couldn't wait till I got up so I could have more food. It was my whole entire thought process. It was ridiculous. And for the first time, I felt this freedom. So I was like, what is this ketone stuff? So I started doing all this research, and then it got me to the ketogenic diet. And then I read the ketogenic Bible and Jimmy Moore books, cholesterol clarity, keto clarity, all these. And I was fascinated because I was like, what? My body can make me feel the same way that this product does? What? And so I started, moving more towards the ketogenic diet, and I didn't need that, supplement anymore because my body kicked in and it was the most amazing thing. And I know people are like rolling their eyes. Oh God, okay, whatever. But when you had 40 years of experience being miserable, feeling deprived, to the point where you would cry at night because you were just so disgusted that you see everybody else enjoying life and you were freaking miserable. And I can't tell you how many times I cried. But to finally be free of that and to feel so amazing and not actually care about food. You could eat bread in my face, chips and salsa, which was one of my favorite things. I was like Tex-Mex queen. I mean, you could ask any of my friends, where do you want to go tonight? Well, you know where you're going. You're going to Chuy's because that's the Tex-Mex, And I would have my Mexican martini or my margarita along with my Tex-Mex and my chips and dips. I didn't care. You could eat that chip and dip right up in my face. I didn't care. And, like my husband said one time, because I was so food centric, he was like, I feel a little bit sad that you're not enjoying food like you used to. And I'm like, no, there's a difference. I enjoy my food, but it's not the center of my world. It is no longer so incredibly important that I'm using it for my entertainment, my comfort, my whole life. It was this liberation that freedom. I can't even tell you. It's like that monkey, just get on off my back.
Yeah.
It was, I mean, somebody who doesn't really fully understand that. Like my husband, he loves food. I'm not going to lie, that kind of thing, but he's never been, food addicted like me and most people probably. And so he didn't quite fully understand that it was such a huge difference, but he could see it. He could see it in my attitude. He could see like this happiness, this glow, this, relief, absolute relief after struggling and just so many things I missed out on and, what I feel like my kids lost out on and, stuff like that. It was just amazing to finally feel free and not care about food. And I still don't care about food. I'm not saying I don't enjoy it. Matter of fact, to celebrate our anniversary, we're going out to this really swanky steakhouse in Austin.
Nice.
And yeah, and I'm super excited about that. But it's different. It's not like it was before. It was like, what do you want to do today? Oh, I want to go out to this restaurant. That was my entertainment. That and occasional movies. That's what I did. Now, yes, we still go out to eat, but I get a steak. That's what I get. A fillet.
Yeah.
That's all I eat. Nothing else. A fillet. And then we go dancing. I would have
Nice.
never danced before. No, I wouldn't. I would have been embarrassed. Of course, my size was, you can't even find clothes that look cute. I don't care what anybody says. More power to the positive body and all that. But I'm sorry, I have a mirror. I know what I look like. I don't care how cute the clothes were. It just was not a good thing. And, now I'm not embarrassed. And we go out there and we took dance lessons. We did all this fun stuff. And now that's what we do for entertainment. Yes, we still go out to eat. We still enjoy our food, but it's just different. It just really is. And it's not a sad thing. It's an awesome thing.
Yeah.
Coming from somebody who had, such an addiction.
Yeah, it's life-changing. It's a complete transformation. And I love, Amber, how you started with the mental side and you focus on how it changed your lifestyle and your relationships and how you feel every day and how you think every day. Because it's so easy to focus on the physical and I lost this much weight and this is my Instagram before and after, which is amazing and is also life-changing. But those things, how you feel every day and how you interact with the rest of the world is so crucial.
Very, very. And I think, honestly, when I started, obviously it was to lose weight. That was my whole goal. But even when I was going through keto, the freedom, yes, awesome. But it was still about looking good. But here's the thing. As many times as I lost weight, and yeah, I felt good about myself and I could look in the mirror and not want to puke, those kind of things. But did it really make me happy? Because there was still that ongoing thing in my head, that battle, that knowing that I wasn't going to be able to maintain it. So yeah, you might as well enjoy it for a little while because you're going to be fat as soon as you quit this. And, so you have that mentality. But, yeah, now once I moved into carnivore, I started really understanding how important the health aspect was. I mean, don't get me wrong, being able to get off blood pressure medication and all that as I kind of went along through keto was awesome. But again, I still didn't really understand just how important health was. You always hear this, health is wealth. And I'll be the first one to tell you, I used to roll my eyes all kinds of back in my head because I'd be like, oh God, whatever, health, whatever. You take it for granted. And I did too until I didn't have it. And then, even then it's still, it's like I have no clue why I felt the way I did. I could just slap myself upside the head thinking about, myself in the past. But I think I had to go through this whole entire journey to really, really understand. And now when I coach clients, I get that they want to lose weight. Believe me, I get it. Been there, done that. but I'm on the other side now. And so I'm looking back going, oh, but honey, just focus on your health, because once you get good and healthy, it makes losing weight so much easier. And, being fat is a symptom. It's not the problem. And I think that's what we've been told so long, is that like I had in my head, like I discussed, I have these issues because I'm fat. Well, there's a lot more than that, going on there. And so I try to really pull back the focus onto the health aspect, but without trying to demean the weight loss part, because I get it. And that is important too. Yes. But without the health, sorry to tell you, your life is not going to be better just because you lost the weight. It's not.
Yeah.
I mean, how many people have lost weight and it doesn't change the way they feel?
Yeah.
Because their health isn't in check. Their hormones aren't balanced. Things are going on. And the mental health. I mean, look at how many people have issues right now. And you got to ask yourself, why? So you've got to get that part figured out too. And that comes along with health.
Yeah.
And, I still think back all the times that I would just go, health is so stupid, whatever. That's what you think about when you're old.
Yeah. Once I get thin, I'll be healthy.
But exactly. And that attitude. Exactly. Yeah. Or I'll worry about it when I'm, 70. I hate to tell you, but once you get that age, eek, sometimes you can't always reverse stuff. So, it's so important to deal with it now. And that's what I try to kind of pull back and focus on now, because I have that experience and I understand, I get it. So.
Yeah, I love that. I'm nodding my head with everything you're saying. I think weight loss can really be the hook that gets people. But what creates the permanent life changes and makes it sustainable and retains people is the health, and the health you feel every day too.
Absolutely.
And when did carnivore first enter the picture for you, Amber? How did that happen?
Yeah, well, as you mentioned before, I do a podcast with my friend Brett Lloyd, Thankful Carnivore, and he's just like this hardcore carnivore, as you know. And I was 2 years into keto at that point, and I was already down to doing OMAD and cutting out a lot of the stuff that I did when I was keto. And like you mentioned, I have recipes and stuff. That was a big fun thing for me, was to find substitutions. I did that, but that was what apparently I needed to do. But as I went along, I stopped needing to do all these substitutions. I stopped with the desserts. I stopped with a lot of that because I just wasn't hungry anymore. So I whittled it down to OMAD, and I would have a decent, meal, probably about 1,300 calories worth. And, it had, good amount of fat, but I was never super, super high fat on keto anyway. I just couldn't quite get there. And I would always look at my macros. Oh my God, I didn't get my fat, whatever, how people do. But, looking back, I think that's funny, but whatever. But, anyway, so I was still on one blood pressure medication, and I still had some issues with rosacea. I guess I didn't mention some of that in my health issues, but I also had Raynaud's syndrome, rosacea, and,
wow.
Just other goofy stuff like that.
Yeah.
And so my friend Brett, he was like, well, why don't you just try carnivore? He just kept bugging me. And I was like, if I'm going to be an advocate for the ketogenic way, I really should experience the whole spectrum, from low carb all the way to the other end, carnivore. So I can talk about it and I can understand it. And instead of just talking about something I've never experienced, I think that's kind of weird, but so I decided, okay, I'll just do it, whatever. And it was easy for me. It wasn't hard at all. I just kind of merged straight into it. And eventually I was like, it was probably less than a week. It was like, I don't know, 3 days, 4 days, whatever. I had zero digestive issues. That's another thing I forgot to mention, is the digestive issues. Since I was a little kid, I'm talking like, 3 years old or so, that I can remember, I struggled with constipation, bloating, pain, like pain, sometimes pain where I would go to my knees pain.
Wow.
And I was never diagnosed with IBS or anything like that. But again, like I said, I don't go to doctors. I still don't. Except for when I absolutely had to back in the health issue days. But if I didn't have to go to the doctor, you can better believe I didn't go to the doctor. And so I was never diagnosed, but I was huge into vegetables. Even as a little kid at 3 years old, what I wanted for breakfast, I wanted a can of spinach. That's what I ate for breakfast. Okay. I was
Wow.
a weird little kid. I don't know, but I was. And I was almost vegetarian at one time because I did really love my vegetables. I rarely ate red meat. It just didn't really appeal to me very often. Like if I had a steak twice a year, kind of thing for special occasions, maybe occasional ground beef, that kind of thing. But I really didn't eat red meat. I ate, big surprise, I ate chicken breasts. Why? Because that's what we're told to eat, right? And then I would occasionally eat tilapia. Yeah, because I couldn't
Wow.
stand. I'm not somebody who likes fishy taste at all. So I would eat occasional shrimp that was fresh or tilapia. That's about all I could deal with. And lobster, I like that too. So that's primarily what I ate. So I ate a lot of vegetables, very rarely red meat. Okay. Anyway, fast forward again. A couple of when I went on keto, I noticed a great improvement in my digestion. And I thought, oh, this must be what it feels like to feel normal. Cool. All right. This is great. And then when I went carnivore within like, I don't know, 3 or 4 days into it, I was like, what in the world is going on here? Because I had no bloating, no constipation, no pain, no gas, like seriously, no gas. And on my stomach or otherwise, it was just gone. And I was like, I don't know why that was so surprising to me, but that was more shocking than me getting off my blood pressure medication or my rosacea clearing up. And it was that part. And I didn't really even understand I had an issue still because it was so much better on keto. But once I got rid of that fiber, oh my goodness, my life has been so much better. And, I now, as much as I love vegetables, I really seriously did. I now look at vegetables as these little things that cause me a great deal of pain and it ain't worth it. So, but I don't
Yeah.
even crave them anymore now after, being carnivore. It was a year in March. So I've kind of got over all that. I don't crave it. Matter of fact, sometimes the smell of it kind of gags me a little. I don't know what that's about. My husband says it's mental, but it probably
Yeah.
is. Who knows? But I don't really care about them anymore. And, I have no desire to eat them again. And if I was told, oh, carnivore is not the best thing for you, your body, I'd
Yeah.
be going, well, crap, because what am I supposed to do? Go back to hurting and
Yeah.
eating, vegetables and crap, I just couldn't even imagine that. So I'm not really sure what I would do at that point because now I understand how horribly it affected my system. I'm not, bad mouthing vegetables for people who can tolerate it. I'm not because I love them, but they hurt me and I don't care to ever have them again. I just don't because
Yeah.
now I know what it feels like. It's fabulous.
Yeah. Yeah. That's amazing. That's incredible. Just the monumentous change going from just keto with some vegetables to carnivore. And I think, a lot of people can tolerate those, but you're a great example of someone where it can be really life changing when, you eliminate them and experiment, which I'm a huge fan of.
Absolutely.
I'm not dogmatic about diet. I don't say
Yeah.
everyone should be a carnivore. I think people should experiment and find what works well for them. I also think, carnivore isn't black or white. If you're eating mostly animal-based foods, a meat-based diet, sure, you're a carnivore. But some people have to be super strict with it. Some don't.
Absolutely.
And I'm curious, Amber, walk us through how do you eat in a day now? What does an average day of eating look like for you, or maybe over the course of a week?
Okay. Sure. I kind of ended up falling into the same pattern as my friend Brett, just kind of by
Nice.
accident. I had started off kind of like doing different meats, thinking I needed that variety because I was giving up all the vegetables, which I loved, etc. And I just didn't really care. And there were some things that just didn't appeal to me. Like chicken kind of looked like just no, it's just not something I wanted anymore. I didn't crave it, didn't want it. So I ended up kind of falling back on ground beef. And so I would make a burger And I started out cooking it in bacon fat after I would cook my bacon, and I would have a burger and bacon. And then a lot of times at dinner, I'd have the same thing, which is pretty much what bread does. But I only eat twice a day. So I only eat lunch and dinner. And then it kind of morphed into where, for some reason, all the fat, like the bacon grease and et cetera, kind of started nauseating me. I just didn't want it. And it's probably my body saying, okay, I think you've had enough fat. You're good. And so I started cooking my burgers in the oven, and I eventually weaned out bacon. So I just have bacon here and there. So basically now what I do is I'll have an 8 to 10 ounce burger for lunch and an 8 to 10 ounce burger for dinner. And sometimes I'll put like a little slab of butter on it when I cook it. And I do use spices. And I do drink coffee, but that is going. I keep saying that, but I was just at the point of cutting that stuff out. And it's not that I'm addicted to caffeine. I could care less about that. I don't need it to wake up. I have plenty of energy. That's never a problem. I get good sleep. So no, I don't care about that. What it is honestly, it's the heavy cream that goes into the coffees. So it's kind of more like, here's a little coffee with your cream, and it's got to go. It's got to go because it's become kind of an addictive thing for me. So, and I was just about at the point to just get rid of it. I had cut down. And then this whole COVID stupid thing happened. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to have my coffee, dang it. And so I just kind of said, you know what, we're just going to have to go with it for a little while. But now that things are, starting to get back on track and my life is a little bit more normal, now I feel like that's something I can tackle. So that's going to go. So that's gone. Okay. And then sometimes on weekends, and especially since this whole COVID thing, we've been ordering out from Texas, the Longhorn Steakhouse. Yeah,
nice.
That's what I meant to say. And I just get a filet. They used to have a 10 ounce filet, and that's what I would get. Now they've decided that they're cutting that across the board.
Oh no.
That's so sad. So now they just have a 6 and an 8. So now I eat an 8 ounce filet, and I usually will have that Friday and Saturday night, and occasionally, because of the COVID thing, we would order out. And so basically weekends would be a filet for dinner. And I still have my burger for lunch. So that's pretty much really what I eat. I mean, it's pretty streamlined.
Yeah. Makes sense. Keep it simple, do what works and what you enjoy.
And it's how about what I want.
Yeah, that's great. And how about organs, eggs, fish? Do you include any of those, Amber?
Okay, well, if anybody's been on my YouTube channel, you can see how much I did try liver. I've tried liver in just about every form and cooked it in different ways, and it's just freaking nasty. And I just can't do it. Now, the least offensive way to me was eating it raw. I would rather eat that nasty raw than cook because it was just, ugh. Anyway, so liver is not something. And like one of my friends said, I don't know if you follow him, Guy in Austin, Mike, on Twitter. Okay. Well, he's like, you know what, Amber, I think you've given it as much of a chance as anybody could.
Yeah,
and so, I think you're good. So no, I don't. Now, if I was to, sometimes I cook it for my family. I haven't in a while, but my mom and my husband really like it. So sometimes I'll cook it, and I will still try it to see if maybe my taste has changed. Maybe it's something that my body is ready for, but it's just not, doesn't really want it. I've tried, other organs like heart, and that was pretty decent, but it's a pain in the butt, and it's not as good as steak. It was plenty fine, but I would rather have a nice tender filet that I could like eat with my hands because it's so tender. And okay, I admit it, when we have it at home, I do eat it with my hands, but I try not to do that when we go out to eat, but
frowned upon.
Yeah. People and their social, whatever. But, so, forgot where I was going with that one.
Yeah. So organs are not for you.
Oh yeah.
How about
I really
eggs
don't.
and fish? Do you incorporate those at all?
I do occasionally have eggs. I just don't really want them very often. I have no reaction to them as far as I can tell. I did without them for 7 months. The same with dairy. I didn't do any dairy for 7 months, and except for a little bit of butter. But I added back in eggs and I didn't seem to have an issue with it. It's just not something that I look at and go, oh, I want it. Every once in a while, I'll want like a boiled egg, mash it up and put some butter in it, or a fried egg on top of a burger or something like that. But it's not very often. And it's not because there's anything wrong with it. It's just something I don't really look at and go, oh, I really want that. As far as fish goes, again, I'm not a fan of fishy taste. I've tried again on my YouTube. I've tried these multiple things like I've tried what is it the sardines and stuff like that, and they're just so vile. And so I'm very particular. I will eat salmon, but the skin can't be on it. I don't even want it cooked with the skin on. And I have to remove all that little black stuff on the bottom and scrape that off. And it has to be fresh, because if it has the least fishy, it tastes like drinking out of an aquarium. Not that I've ever done that, but based on smell, that's what I would guess it would taste like. I can't do it. And that's pretty much the only fish I eat. And I do like lobster. I was eating shrimp for a while, but then that kind of turned me off too, for whatever reason, I don't know. So really occasional salmon and lobster on special occasions, which might be tonight. I don't know.
Nice. That's great. And how about any supplements? Do you include any of those, or do you not feel the need to supplement at all?
Okay. No, I do not take any supplements at the moment. I absolutely hate taking pills. I was on so many medications, and now that I'm off of it, the last thing I want to do is use supplements.
Yeah.
However, I'm not against it. And I'm kind of starting to see that I'm going through something right now, a hormonal shift, like I'm turning 54 in July, right? So you can kind of get, I'm not going to say that word because I hate that word, but yeah, it's kind of right about that time. And there's something just not right in my body right now. And I feel it. And so I am having a consultation soon with a doctor who you probably follow, actually, to see about getting my hormones back in check, because I'm pretty sure I'm just right about there. And so I am open to taking them. And I'm pretty sure that's what I'm going to need to do. I'm not real thrilled about having to do that, because I really hate having to depend on that kind of thing. And, like when you go on trips, and I used to have to take, the Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday thing and put all the little pills and the little, no.
Yeah.
And the last time we went on a cruise, I didn't have to do that. I didn't have to take anything. I didn't have to take things for acid reflux like I used to have to do. And I didn't have to take my apple cider vinegar in case that happened. I didn't have to take supplements, nothing. I took none of that. And it was so freeing. But I think I'm going to have to. And I may even have to add in like magnesium and D3. I don't know. I mean, I don't feel like I'm lacking anything other than, like I said, just here really recently, I've felt like this shift that where something is not quite right. I mean, I'm still sleeping well. I'm still, have energy. It's not that, but I think once you get all that crap out of your body, you're more able to feel when something isn't exactly right. And you can listen to the signals your body is telling you. And even though it may be subtle, I feel it, and I'm not willing to let it, go on, because I'm really used to feeling good now. And no, I'm not going to go back to feeling, bad again. So I am open to doing it, even though I really don't want to.
Yeah, that's great. And how about you have some fantastic recipes on your site, Amber, the Lone Star Keto Girl, and on your Instagram page. Do you include any like keto treats or things like that in your diet, or how do you deal with that?
Well, that's most of my recipes, honestly. Because let's face it, everybody likes to look at a dessert. I'm one of these weird people who, I was actually a cake decorator, and I did all of the cakes for my daughter's wedding, and it was like way over the top. And I'm not even kidding you. It had 3 8-foot tables worth of cake and desserts. And that was my thing. And I liked the pretty of it. I mean, I'm not saying I don't like the taste of it, but I liked the pretty. So when I started doing the keto recipes, and I mentioned that I was into the substitution thing, right? And I thought that was so cool that you could still have what you liked. And I mean, I have a different mentality now, but, so I have a lot of those recipes. However, no, I do not eat those. And if you want to ask if I go off plan, I actually do not go off plan like on holidays or, Mother's Day or my birthday. Actually, I don't. And I don't even have a keto version of it. I really don't. And the only time I do, or so far, is when I go on a cruise, which is usually once a year. We have one in December. We'll see how that goes.
Good luck.
Yeah, exactly. We haven't canceled. We're still hoping that everything's gonna, settle down by then. But, I actually did one, last year. It was October. It was over Halloween as a carnivore. And I stayed carnivore except for a few exceptions that I decided on before I ever stepped foot on the ship. This is something that I decide. I do it for a week and that's it. I will, I don't know what this says about me, but my allowances are alcohol. Yeah, but whatever. It's my thing. It's my chocolate martinis. I'm not going to lie. I do that. And an occasional dessert if it's really, really appealing, like the chocolate lava cake. That's just like something that, is, I don't know, the once a year thing, whatever.
Yeah, sure.
And the second I step off that ship, and I've been able to do it for 3 years, and we take at least one cruise a year. So I don't know what, let's see, 2, 3, 4, probably 5 cruises now over the past 3 years where I have stepped off that ship and bam, right back to it. Even on the way home when we stop to get something to eat as we're driving back to Round Rock, we leave out of Galveston. We like to go out of Texas because we don't have to fly and all that.
Yeah, nice.
But we will stop and get something to eat because by that time we're ready to eat. I will be eating carnivore, or in the past it was keto, and I never had an issue with that. Yeah, I just didn't have an issue, and it was easy for me. Some people can't do that, and if I did that often, if I did that, once a week, off plan, cheat, whatever you want to call it, I probably would have a problem. But because that is the one time a year I say, you know what, within a parameter, you can do this. But most of the time, I don't care. I mean, even like Christmas, you know what I had for Christmas? I had a filet. We bought one from the store ahead of time. And when we got to my dad's house, my dad cooked me my filet. That's what I had. That's all I had.
Yeah.
And I was perfectly happy with that. It was I'm talking about a big old thick one. It was good too. And that's my treat, and I'm completely happy with that. And I'm not just saying that. Yeah. I honestly don't care. And the only thing I care about right now that I can't fathom why is that stupid coffee with cream. Why? Yeah. So, for in my mind, I have to get rid of it. I mean, I was a chocoholic and I don't even care about that. All I care about is that stupid coffee. And so, that's got to go.
Yeah. That's awesome, Amber, that you've been able to reach that point. I know some people aren't there, right. But there are trade-offs to everything in life, and absolutely. Some people they need that treat, and I think going to a keto treat is great alternative. And some people, it's just easier for them to say no.
Absolutely.
And how has this changed your relationship with your family? Can you talk a little bit about that, and also how they eat, how they think about your way of eating?
Yeah. Some of my family is very supportive. Again, like I said, my husband has always been very, very supportive. And when he saw the difference in me and how happy I was and all that, he was like, okay, yeah, you go, whatever. And he was like, you know what? Since I did all the cooking, he was like, I'm fine with doing keto if you want to, whatever. And that's when I started doing the recipes and all that. And he was loving life because it was yummy food. I mean, keto can be very, very yummy. And so he's been really good about that. And well, before this whole COVID thing, he would go out to lunch with his team. It was kind of like a team bonding thing. And he would he tried to pretty much stay keto as he could. And then when he'd come home at night, he was fine with eating what I would cook as far as carnivore went. But now that's pretty much all I have. he's kind of like, okay, I can't just do meat. So that's kind of been a little bit of an issue, but so he'll go out to eat a couple times a week, and then the other times he'll eat a burger with me or whatever. But he's very supportive of me doing it. Not a problem there. My kids, again, they're happy that I'm healthy and that I'm living life, especially my dad. I mean, he just about cried when he's a big dancer. He used to even be a dance instructor, like country dancing. That's what we do. I guess I should say that. But he would always try to get me to dance. And of course I'm not, because again, I mentioned how, embarrassing it was, and I was fat and I didn't want to go out. I didn't want to be seen. And now we do all these cool tricks and we dance and dance and dance. And my dad literally sat on when he saw us the first time and cried, because he saw so much happiness, and it's something he's always wanted for me. So my dad is very supportive. There was some issues with some of my family as far as not wanting, almost being offended, because like when I would go to family gatherings, Christmas, whatever it would be, I would bring my own food. I never asked anybody to do anything for me, and I didn't talk about it unless somebody asked me. And there was at one point where one of my family members asked me, like, well, what are you doing, honey? Whatever, what are you eating? And I just kind of talked about it a little bit, and she's fascinated. And then another of my family got really bent out of shape and just kind of left the table and said, I just can't talk about this. And it just kind of blew my mind, because I wasn't lecturing. I wasn't, telling everybody else they had to eat that way. I was asked a question and I answered it. So I got a little bit of that. And, sometimes some of my family members, even, ones that I'm very close to and I love dearly, and they were just kind of like, oh God, really? You can't eat that? It just has a little sugar in it, like a rub or on a piece of meat or whatever. And I'd be going, oh no, I really don't want that. Yeah, I could eat it if I want to. I don't want to. I brought my own. I'm fine. Don't worry about me,
Yeah.
but it was almost like an offensive thing.
Yeah, they feel threatened.
Yeah, a little bit, I guess. And, I wasn't asking anybody to make any allowances for me. I took care of myself, and I never made a big deal out of it unless somebody asked me. And my friends, I had one friend who was extremely supportive, and, she kind of even went more along the lines of what I ate. She will go off plan a lot, but she kind of sticks within a whatever. But I had another friend who kind of would say stuff like, she ain't eating that. Oh God, why don't you just eat this? Or, little comments like that. And then when my friend would order something similar to me, the other friend would go, oh my God, not you too. And it's like, what? We're not making a big deal out of it. We're not saying anybody else has to eat that way. We're not saying everybody, should eat that way. It's just what we do. And I have no desire to eat that other stuff. It's not that I can't. I can do whatever the heck I want to do. And if I chose to eat something, I will eat it. I choose not to because I don't want to. Yeah. And, I think that's hard for people to really understand, that you can actually not want something. And it not be, like bread. I used to love bread, going to a steak restaurant. Ooh, give me that bread. That was like my best part. I don't care about the steak. Give me the bread. And my daughter's kind of like that too. And, when my husband and I go out to eat, we never get the bread. We just don't care about that. But when we go out with a family, they want that. So, the bread will be brought, and that's fine. We don't care. It doesn't bother my husband or I. We don't eat it. We'll just look at it and, okay, it smells good. It looks good, but I don't care. I don't care. It's not tempting to me at all. And I think, people just don't really understand that. And I wouldn't have understood it, to be honest. There was a time in my life where I would have done the same thing. I would have been one of those people. I would have. So, I can't blame anybody for, thinking that way or whatever, because I was one of those. So.
Yeah. Everyone's at a different point in their journey. And I really like how you don't try to impose your diet on people and just bring your own thing. That's really great. And talk about your work with MeatRx a little bit, Amber. What are some of the things you do there? What are some of the top things you've learned from folks there? And maybe how has it changed your own approach?
Okay, yeah. I am just a huge, huge MeatRx fan. I think Sean Baker and the other people behind the scenes, I won't name everybody, but have done this wonderful, wonderful thing
Yeah.
because there's so much censorship right now that it's sometimes very difficult for us to be able to advocate for this particular lifestyle.
Right.
So this is one platform people can go and they can see all the success stories. They can read them. They can listen to them. They can, watch videos. I'm one of the hosts of the Success Story podcast, and I get to do VIPs as well as, just people like me. And it is just amazing. I mean, I can't even tell you how touched I've been listening to these stories because I can relate so much to some of the things they're saying. There was one lady that had me absolutely sobbing because I could relate so well to her, but she had it 10 times worse than I ever thought of having it. And so, to see her come out on the other end was just amazing. So that has transformed me in a way that, just hearing all this positivity, and it makes me want to advocate all that more. And again, like you're saying, I'm not dogmatic. Not everybody needs to do the carnivore diet. Not everybody's going to do well on it. And that's fine. But people need to know that maybe there's an option if they're going through all this stuff and nothing else has helped. And medication is just masking the symptoms or, just dealing with the symptoms. They're not getting to the root of the issue. And so, I get to just see all these uplifting things, and I'm just like, yeah, I'm on the right track. I feel like this is what I need to do. So that's been a big thing for me. So being a host, I love. I also do the graphics for the podcast that announces who's going to be the next speaker, like the VIP
Awesome.
speakers that Sean interviews.
Those are great.
Yeah, that fabulous. I've listened to a lot of them, and I got to interview some of the VIPs, and so fun, so informative. And I mean, I just, even after the interview, I'm like, okay, I got to know. We just chat some more because it's just so interesting. And there's so many wonderful people out there, and you have no idea until you're exposed to it. And so I think that platform is so awesome that all that good stuff is in one place. And there's also recipe section on MeatRx, and some of my recipes are up there actually because they've kind of branched out into some keto stuff as well as fasting. I'm also a fasting coach. So they're, kind of trying to pull in more people to help as many people as they can. So they're expanding and doing different things. And it's just amazing. Every day it's something more, something newer, better. So there is that recipe section. And again, some of my recipes are on there. So that's kind of cool. And let's see, what else do I do in there? Yeah, I think that's probably the big part is the hosting and the graphics.
That's awesome.
That kind of thing. And I'm a moderator on the World Carnivore Tribe, which is, Sean's, start off a whatever group. So I do some of that. I do whatever, anybody asks that they need. I'm like, I'm on it. I got it.
That's great.
It's just fun and getting to really meet people who have such common interests and who are wanting to advocate and get the word out and trying to figure out the best way to do that. It is awesome to be part of that team. I mean, I really, really love it. I feel like it's a family, and it's a lot of fun. And everybody, please go check out MeatRx if you haven't.
Yeah,
because there's a lot of really, really good resources.
Absolutely. I think it's a fantastic resource for folks and family and tribe for people to get connected, learn, troubleshoot, and build a community, which is so critical.
Absolutely.
And talk about, your podcast, your page, everything you're doing. What are some of your goals broadly? Like, what are you trying to, who are you trying to help? How are you trying to help them? And where can people find out more about you?
Oh, goodness. Because of my past and how much I've struggled and how much pain I've gone through, both health, emotional, mentally, if I can do something to help somebody, I don't care who they are, if it's one person, if I can help change that person's life, like the transformation I have felt, then, it's all worth it to me. So, I do coach, and okay, yeah, I make a little tiny bit of money from that. But other than that, I do this because I want to help. I don't have sponsors. I don't make money. I do this because I honestly want to help people, and I don't want anybody to have to go through what I did any more than they have to, because it is the most horrible existence, living inside yourself like that, hating what you see every day in the mirror and thinking you are a failure when really it was the diet that failed you. It was the information you had that failed you. And now I'm trying to place myself in a position where I can give out that information that I was denied. And, let people know that maybe if what you're doing is not working, maybe give this a go. I'm not, expecting anybody to change everything. I don't care about that. That's not my business. But I think the information needs to get out there for those who do need something different or more, or everything they've tried doesn't work. Hello, I know how that is. So yeah, I have a podcast with my friend Brett, and we just kind of talk just various subjects. And it's an Instagram live. It's called the Keto Cast, with a K and a K, Ketovore with a K and cast with a K, one word.
Yeah.
And it's live, and we answer questions, and we let people comment and et cetera, like that. And we have like some bullet point things we kind of like to bring up, kind of current events, basically, what's going on in the world, in our lives that pertain to keto carnivore, that kind of thing. So we try to, have a little platform for people who may be intimidated in some of the bigger platforms, to come, talk to us, because it's just the two of us, and, we don't have this huge following. And, also, of course, with the coaching, doing the carnivore as well as fasting through meatrx.com. That platform is awesome to do that. Some people just need some support and just a little bit of accountability. It's not even so much how you do the carnivore diet, because that's not that hard. But people sometimes need more to it, and it's an extremely affordable thing. And there are tons of different coaches there that may have some similar issues that you have. I'm not saying you have to come to be by any means, but I list out all the things that I've been through and the issues that I've dealt with, and between, eating disorders, et cetera. And the other coaches do the same. So you can go through and you can pick the coach that you think would be perfect for you. And that's a really cool thing. And it's under $20. And you just really can't find that anywhere. And you get somebody who can support you. So I am very passionate about that. And again, the coaches that are there, I promise you, they're not doing it for the little bit of money they make. They're doing it because they honestly want to share their experience and help, so others don't have to go through what they did. So I think that's an amazing thing. And of course, I have my other social media. I'm everywhere, even on TikTok now. That's going really slow because it's, if you don't have the right, it's kind of hard. But I tried to do these funny little videos to kind of get the word out. And I'm still learning it and trying to grow there. But yeah, look me up there, Lone Star Keto Girl. It's pretty funny. I have some funny stuff, or at least I think I'm hysterical, whatever. Maybe not everybody does. But
I'm not there yet. I'm not quite on TikTok.
It's so funny. It's kind of a good outlet, especially, having to be home and having more time on your hands. A lot of people kind of merged over there. But I'm also on Instagram as Lone Star Keto Girl. And that is honestly my main kind of social media platform, if you will. So if you don't follow anywhere else, that would be the best one for me anyway. And I do have a website that's lone-star-keto.com. And I have like a keto guide, keto resources. I have all my podcasts up there. recipes. Obviously, that was kind of the main idea of the website to begin with, is the recipes. And I started a carnivore section because, I have time and I'm trying to get to all these. If I just had the time list, well, I have no excuse because I do have the time now. So I'm trying to revamp that and add the carnivore section. So I'm there. And then I'm on Twitter. Yeah, I think I hit it all. Yeah. Oh, Facebook. I have a group or a page there, Lone Star Keto on Facebook. If anybody's still doing that.
I'll link to all that in the show notes, Amber. And thank you so much for your time today. It's been awesome chatting with you and getting to know your story better. I'm sure folks will get a lot out of this. And look forward to continuing to follow your podcast with Brett and you on MeatRx. But thank you again so much for your time.
Thank you so much for having me. It's been fun.
Of course. Hope you have a great rest of your day.
You too.
Bye now.
Bye.
If you enjoy the show, please consider supporting the Carnivore Cast on Patreon. By becoming a patron, you'll help us reach more people and continue to create content on carnivore. There are also exclusive perks available, such as private Q&As, consultations with me, and more. Become a supporter at patreon.com/carnivorecast. Check the episode description for the link. Thank you, and I'll see you there. Thank you for listening to this episode of the Carnivore Cast. If you enjoyed this episode, please review on iTunes. It really helps us out. And share it with a friend. What questions would you like answered? Or who would you like to hear from in the carnivore research community? You can find me on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook at Carnivore Cast, or go to carnivorecast.com. You can also email me at info@carnivorecast.com. I'd love to hear from you. Until next time, keep it carnivore.